The National Environment Agency organizes a high-level stakeholders forum to review the national implementation plan on persistent organic pollutants. More than 100 migrants are reported dead in Tunisia's off coast. Victims, relatives, and activists formed over the situation. And the World Health Organization has recommended a high demand for infertility care, diagnosis, and treatment. All this and more coming your way on The Ball today. Hello, this is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in details. And we begin this news bulletin with environment-related matters because the National Environment Agency on Tuesday conducts a high-level meeting on the national inception of the Project Global Development, reviewing and adopting its national implementation plan on persistent organic pollutants. Funded by the Global Environmental Facility to the Gambia, the review aims to develop and update the country's first SNP of 2009 and 2019 respectively. Mariama Cham reports.
The Gambia is among 152 countries that are part of the major chemical conventions, Basel, Rotterdam, Stockholm, and the Bamako Conventions. The Stockholm Convention is a global treaty that aims to protect human health and the environment from effects of persistent organic pollutants. The convention provides funding for developing countries in economic transition to update their national implementation plan, commonly known as NIP, of which the Gambia is a beneficiary. This update and review meeting is being attended by various environment stakeholders, including the National Assembly's Select Committee on Environment, including private and public partners. The Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, Yahya Jammeh, in her deliberations said the meeting is meant to create strategies and identify responsibilities for the relevant stakeholders.
Today's National Inception meeting is being held to map out national strategies for implementation of the project, as well as identifying roles and responsibilities for every stakeholder. Article 10 of the Convention encourages the active participation of civil society, NGOs, and general public in managing funds. It is therefore of great importance that you all participate in the review process and take ownership of the project from the start.
Minister John Manjang further emphasized that the resolutions of the meeting will be put as a national document, which will be updated to reflect realities as well as emerging issues in the medium to long term, which she said is a priority to the government of the Gambia. Dr. Dauda Baji, Executive Director of the National Environment Agency, reveals that the National Implementation Plan has been in existence for a while now. He also observes the importance of holding such periodic updates to address issues of environmental challenges.
The Gambia has actually developed a NIF for a long period of time, but dealing with how we can manage our persistent organic pollutant chemicals. So these chemicals actually, they are within our system, but we need to be periodically updating them so that it can reflect the realities on the ground. So it is important that looking at the wide use of chemicals in this country and at the global at large, it is important for us to look at it, reflect on it seriously, and see how we can minimize the implications associated with the use of these chemicals. We cannot do away without the chemicals, but we have to know how we can use them so that their effect will not be so much on us and our children as well.
Persistent organic pollutants are chemicals of global concern due to their potential for long-range transport, persistent in the environment, ability to biomagnify and bioaccumulate in ecosystems, as well as their significant negative effects on human health and the environment. But with the National Implementation Plan fully up and running, it aims to prevent such hazardous chemicals and also protect both the fauna and the flora of the country. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
Now, moving on, tensions are boiling up among relatives of missing migrants and activists in Tunisia following the latest report indicating that 132 irregular migrants died or got missing in the country's off coast in the first quarter of 2023. Now, the bemoaned activists allege that the Italian authorities have been maltreating undocumented Tunisian migrants, some of whom died at the detention centers. Now, Tunisia is among several North African nations faced with growing migration challenges. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Many parents claim that their children have reached Italian shores. Relatives of missing migrants say they want to recover their bodies, even if they were reported dead.
My brother and 8 neighbors crossed the sea together. The smuggler is also a neighbor. I'm sure my brother did not die during the journey. Eyewitnesses saw him alive in a detention center in Italy. We want to know whether our sons are dead or alive. We just want the truth.
Activists accuse Italian authorities of mistreating undocumented migrants from Tunisia. They say dozens of irregular migrants also died at migrant and detention centers in Italy.
My brother arrived safely in Italy. We were in contact for 2 months, then we lost contact. He was detained at a migrant center, then transferred to a neurology center at hospital. My brother was killed because he had been tied for 4 days and was given medicines while he was in perfect mental and physical health.
Tunisian fishermen have become accidental migrant rescuers. Fishing vessels near the coast are also making awful discoveries and recoveries of bodies.
The rise in the number of victims is the result of failed state policies in developing inner regions. We are calling for justice and accountability. Smugglers and criminals must be held to account for organizing irregular migration crossings.
During the first quarter of 2023, 1,771 Tunisian irregular migrants managed to reach the Italian coasts, including 348 minors and 121 women. Meanwhile, irregular migration crossings carrying 14,082 persons of Tunisian and non-Tunisian nationality were foiled. According to the latest statistics released by the Tunisian NGOs, 660 Tunisian irregular migrants made it to the Italian coast last month, compared to 224 in March 2022 and 334 in March 2021. Experts say the number of missing migrants could rise in the next few weeks due to bad weather conditions.
And that migration-related report that is coming from the North African country of Tunisia. Now, staying in the North African region, Egyptian authorities are initiating measures to enhance local food production with a view to attaining food self-sufficiency. Authorities of the North African nations are partnering with the international organization like the Food and Agriculture Organization under the United Nations, among others. Incentives to support small-scale farmers have since begun to help maximize their farming activities. Here's more details of that in this report.
The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says that the Middle East and Africa were way off track to achieve the UN sustainability goals in 2020. That's why when the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine crisis hit, many countries, including Egypt, faced a major food crisis. To boost efforts to increase its domestic production and secure food supply, Cairo intensified cooperation with organizations like the FAO.
We are working at many different levels in Africa, in Egypt, starting with enhancing the productive capacities, dealing with the water management issues, developing the value chains and linking to the international markets. So we provide all of the agri-food system-oriented technical support to the government to enhance the production, the productivity and availability of food within the country.
FAO is helping Egypt agriculture production through maximizing productivity, how to deal with the changes in the environment in Egypt, like seawater intrusion in the north of Delta. FAO is helping the local communities through the Farmer Field School and how to build varieties that are more resistant to salinity and more resilient for the changes of the drought in the region.
Small-scale farmers account for about 50% of Egypt's agricultural production. Most of them, however, use inefficient traditional agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture's guidance offices are leading massive campaigns to educate some 30 million farmers about advanced agricultural practices.
We learn a lot from the guidance office field visits. They invite farmers to fields where new cultivation methods have been adopted. We then see the results for ourselves, and we ask the landowner about his experience based on the information and directives he received from the Agricultural Ministry's experts.
Egypt is now focusing on spreading raised bed cultivation and crop rotation to increase land productivity. The government is also providing loans at low interest rates to help farmers switch from flood to drip irrigation. It's part of a national plan to direct more resources to expand the country's cultivated areas by more than 1.5 million acres. Beside agricultural efforts, Egypt has been building more silos to increase its strategic reserves of grains. The move enabled it to increase its reserves of wheat to cover its needs from just 3 months up to 9 months. It also gives it a buffer time to respond to shocks in the global market.
And you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, coming to you live from our studios in Banjul and from the reporter in Egypt. We now take a break and come back shortly.
Do you want an affordable yet exquisite home or a service plot from TAF, but do not know how to go about it? Worry no more. Let me walk you through the process. 1. Book a viewing with us. 2. Agree on a payment plan you are comfortable with. 3. Fill out a reservation form. 4. Take your time to review, ask questions, and when satisfied, you can proceed by signing our sale agreement. And 5. Pay a deposit and sale is confirmed. From there, you can walk into your home and enjoy the real TAF experience, or still be a proud owner of a service plot from us. It's that simple. Book a viewing today. For more information, please call 376-2333 or 776-2333.
Welcome back. This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. And once again, many thanks for joining us. Let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, a WHO new report on infertility has revealed that large numbers of people, roughly 1 in every 6 worldwide, are affected by infertility in their lifetime. With such a high ratio, the WHO recommends for a great demand for fertility or infertility care, diagnosis and treatment. Despite the magnitude of the issue, solutions for the prevention, diagnosis and treatment of infertility, including assisted reproductive technology such as in vitro fertilization, remains underfunded and inaccessible to many due to the high cost, social stigma and limited availability. Here's more details of that in this report. Again, Yahya Jammeh.
Infertility is a disease of the male or female reproductive system, defined by the failure to achieve a pregnancy after 12 months or more of regular unprotected sexual intercourse. It can cause significant distress, stigma, and financial hardship, affecting people's mental and psychosocial well-being. Around 17.5% of the adult population experience infertility, showing the urgent need to increase access to affordable, high-quality fertility care for those in need. Explaining the details of the report, the WHO's Director of Sexual and Reproductive Health and Research, Pascal Alote, describes 1 out of 6 people experiencing infertility as a significant number.
Infertility is a medical condition, a medical diagnosis, when a couple have tried for a 12-month period to get pregnant and it doesn't occur. The report shows that 1 in 6 people are infertile over a period of a lifetime. The key findings of the report show that 1 in 6 people are infertile over a period of a lifetime. That is a significant number.
After describing the number as significant, the WHO official said there is a greater demand for care as it is not recognized globally.
So the sheer magnitude of the numbers of infertile couples mean that there is a great demand for infertility care, for diagnosis and treatment. Because it is not well recognized, the services are often not available, which means that those who try to seek care end up in catastrophic expenditure within the health services. Even if the services are available, they are unaffordable for a lot of people.
The WHO official reveals that infertility has less attention around the world because the discussion has been mainly centered on contraception than infertility.
Infertility has not had much attention globally. And this is largely because there has been, in the population discussions, there has been much more of a focus on contraception rather than infertility. And so it just has not been prioritized. And the report shows just how critical the question is and just how critical the need is. 1 in 6 is a lot of people.
The new estimates show limited variation in the prevalence of infertility between regions. The rates are comparable for high, middle, and low-income countries, indicating that this is a major health challenge globally. Lifetime prevalence was 17.8% in high-income countries and 16.5% in low- and middle-income countries. At present, in most countries, fertility treatments are largely funded out of pocket, often resulting in devastating financial costs. People in the poorest countries spend a greater portion of their income on fertility care compared to people in wealthier countries. High costs frequently prevent people from accessing infertility treatments or can catapult them into poverty as a consequence of seeking care. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Yahya Jammeh.
Back to matters here in the African continent now. Following weeks of a political unrest in Kenya, the country's political leaders have called for calm and dialogue to resolve their differences. Now, this African nation has witnessed waves of anti-government protest sanctioned by the country's main opposition leader, Raila Odinga, which resulted in the damage of properties in different parts of the country. Now, the latest agreement between the government and the opposition has been widely welcomed, which will allow businesses to strive after weeks of closure. Here's more details of that in this report.
For the last 2 weeks, business activities in Nairobi and other parts of Kenya have been severely disrupted as anti-government protests hit the East African nation. But late Sunday, leader Raila Odinga suspended the demonstrations after the government extended an olive branch for talks to resolve the crisis.
And therefore, in these circumstances, and in view of the recent events that led to loss of life and destruction of property in the demonstrations that have occasioned in our country for the last 2 weeks, I urge my brother Raila Odinga and the opposition to call off the demonstrations.
In accepting the call for the dialogue, we ask that all arrests and prosecutions related to our demonstrations be stopped with immediate effect.
In response, the government has dropped charges against opposition politicians facing charges of participating in the protest. The country's central business district that was strangled by protest is buzzing again.
Now that they have agreed to talk, it's very good, and I pray to God it continues that way in good faith, so that business can go back to normal, because we as Kenyans have lost a lot of revenue.
But the greatest pain is still being felt by many other small-scale business owners whose businesses were hardest hit. Nelius Wanjiru runs a small phone accessories shop in downtown Nairobi. With her savings fast depleting, Wanjiru wasn't sure how much longer she could hold on.
Business here last week.
Business was so bad last week because of the protests. We had to close due to running battles with the police, but at least now we hope for the best.
But we hope for the best.
It's still too early to put an exact figure on the losses suffered by businesses in the suspended Kenyan protest. But small-scale business operators say at least 50% of their revenues were affected. For now, many businesses remain counting the economic cost and financial toll of the protest that threatened East Africa's biggest economy.
And that report is coming from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, where it has been a good news for the businesses after weeks of protest has been finally suspended. And with that report there, we now eventually bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.